And let's bring in Dore, the longtime Israeli official and former Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. Mr. Ambassador, so far so good.
Good morning. Well, you know, all we did is have a plane fly in, a very historical fly-in, a fly-in that came from Saudi Arabia. But obviously, I think the people of Israel are very excited, particularly after the speech that President Trump gave there, which I think was widely appreciated in Israel.
Would it be fair, Mr. Ambassador, to say the message that the president is bringing to the three great religions is tolerance and fierce resistance to terrorism will lead to a more prosperous future for everybody? As we watch, this looks like another chopper coming into the old train station in Jerusalem. Go ahead, Mr. Ambassador.
Yeah, that goes without saying. Clearly, if there is a new kind of interreligious tolerance, then those who have been inciting young people to become suicide bombers can be sidelined. That certainly will help, because the solution of terrorism isn't just a military solution. It's also this ideological solution, like that new center that was just created in Saudi Arabia.
So you're a believer that that center is going to be a real center, and that they might be intimidated enough by the extremist element in their own country to truly take action? They've been catching ISIS terrorists in Saudi Arabia. They had an al-Qaeda attack in Saudi Arabia back in 2003. They know this is a problem, although in the past, Saudi Arabia was a big funder of Hamas. I wrote a whole book about it. But today, they don't give Hamas a nickel.
Yeah, changing times in history for sure. As we've been talking about, though, one of the big things that President Trump would like to get done, which has pretty much been impossible throughout history, is this ultimate deal between the Palestinians and the Israelis. You know so much about this. Are you confident that they can have reasonable conversations about a deal and ultimately maybe even get one done?
Well, one thing that the president has shown in his speech in Saudi Arabia, he learns, he studies, he understands issues by investing time and focus on them. And so I think that he will do the deal of the possible. Everybody likes to talk about grandiose deals, solving once and for all the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I'm not sure we're there. In fact, I know that there are wide gaps. I know that Abbas told President Obama in the Oval Office, I'll get back to you on a generous proposal he was given, and he never got back.
Yeah.
So I think what we have to do is see what is possible. And there are great economic possibilities that could create the infrastructure for peacemaking. And one thing about President Trump, he's a big vision guy. He's a person who can see the possibilities of trains and highways connecting Israeli ports, crossing Israel, Jordan, and going to the Gulf. That's the kind of person that can probably lead to a different Middle East, not the Middle East we've seen for the last 30 years.
Yeah, well, that big vision guy, as you're talking about, landing right now in Marine One in Jerusalem, set to spend the afternoon with the president there of Israel.
That's right. Mr. Ambassador, let me ask you this. You're talking about, you know, he's a practical guy, Donald Trump is, and would go for what is doable. But what do the Palestinians, what do you want from the Palestinians? What do the Israelis want from the Palestinians to do a deal?
Look, there are two immediate issues that can be addressed. Number one, you've all heard about Israel's concern about the fact that the Palestinian leadership is paying families whose sons engaged in terrorism and have either been imprisoned or hit by our security forces. That's intolerable. That incentivizes terrorism, and that has to stop. It has to stop now. The second thing is how they treat this whole issue of refugees. Around the world, refugee status is not transferred from father to son to grandson, but among the Palestinians, because of UN rules, it is. And therefore, we have refugee status in perpetuity. That's how you perpetuate the Arab-Israel conflict. That has to change, and that can change.